during the previous days that 91,000 wait-listed senior citizens who were not able to receive their pensions because of insufficient funds. Ang ating po mga senior citizens, hindi pinalabas ng bahay kaya marami ang hindi kumita. Bakit naman po hindi natin sila unahin? May I also ask our good agency, will the 4-piece list be updated this 2021? Darami sigurado ang magiging miyembro dagdag ng 4-piece at dapat tuunan ito agad-agad. Lastly, for our social workers who are on the ground, it seems there is no additional budget to address their needs and safety. They are our frontliners, dapat silang alagaan. On the Department of Public Works and Highways, sa ngayon, higit na makikita ang direktang pakinabang ng build, build, build. Hindi lang ito para sa build, build, build ng infrastruktura, kundi maaari maging mekanismo para build, build, build ng ekonomiya sa pamamagitan ng mga trabahong maililikha. The projects of DPWH are expected to generate 200,000 jobs. Our country badly needs this. Build, build, build. Jobs, jobs, jobs. This holds correct as the government needs to provide jobs in this time of pandemic. No other than the government should help our people in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Hindi ito pwedeng isandal sa pribadong sektor. Kailangan ang gobyerno ang mag-bail out at magbigay ng trabaho. Kaya nakakalungkot na a mere 135 billion ay tinanggal sa Department of Public Works and Highways. At ito yung mga maliliit na proyekto na nasa mga probinsya at nasa mga lugar kung saan marami ang mahihirap. This is in contrast to the 1.9 trillion unused appropriation. Aamagin po, Mr. Speaker, ang pera pag hindi ginamit at hindi natin gamitin para tulungan ang sambayan ng Pilipino. Needless, I say, I do hope that this money will not be used in unnecessary spending. On the Department of Labor and Employment, they have provided jobs and they will continue to provide so. Napaka-challenging po ng kanilang sitwasyon. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, partnership in the time of the pandemic and the kind of private-public partnership that we hope to see more often. It buoys the economy, strengthens our service deliveries, and ultimately improves the life of our countrymen. In the context of the pandemic, I am proud to say we have successfully collaborated with the private sector in bringing testing machines, automating the public government hospitals, and increasing the country's testing capacity. It was also the private sector who paved way in helping government hospitals, so much so that PCR and swab testing was reduced to approximately 1,700 to 2,500 per person tested. We thank the following agencies and offices that assisted us in the shipment of several machines, testing kits, reagents, transfer of technology to Cebu, Iloilo, Tacloban, Bacolod, Zamboanga, Pampanga, Manila, Baguio, and all the other hard-to-reach areas in our country. To Secretary Delphine Lorenzana and the men and women in the Philippine Air Force who helped us transport essential machines, supplies from the Philippines, from outside our country to our country and the different provinces. To Secretary Carlito Galvez and the IATF, our country owes all of you a debt of gratitude for your efforts. Karamihan po sa kanila walang tulog, walang pahinga, patuloy na tumutulong sa mga gawain ng public and private sectors upang mapuksa ang mga problema dulot ng pandemya. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. More importantly, we thank our frontliners who have been working tirelessly for all of us. The nurses, our doctors, our medical technologists, our medical professionals, soldiers, uniformed personnel, social workers, government employees, marami pa pong iba. You have kept all of us safe and alive. The least that we could do, Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, is to make sure that they have safe workplaces, regular testing, protected with PPEs, provided with transportation, and as on-site housing arrangements, and most importantly, mental health support. I cannot overemphasize the importance of mental health in this period of pandemic. I stress upon all agencies that every peso saved could go a long way in terms of keeping the well-being and mental health of your own frontliners and our citizens. Mechanisms for a wider spread of mental health support programs should be explored to give some hope to the hopeless and the depressed. This is an initiative I take close to my heart as a former health secretary and as a representative of my constituency, but also as a mother with a daughter concerned about the well-being of her loved ones. Sa Pilipino, ang house ay bahay o tahanan. Pwede po nating sabihin, ang Kongreso bilang House of Representatives ay siyang tahanan, bahay ng sambayanang Pilipino. Bumabalik ito sa punto ko na sa atin ipinagkatiwala ang pangangasiwa sa dakilang tahanang ito. Sa gabay ng Panginoon, at sa pagkakaisa natin bilang mga kinatawan ng Pilipino, naway magampanan po natin ang ating tungkulin ng may dignidad at malinis na hangarin para sa ikabubuti ng ating mamamayan, ngayon higit kailanman. They say that Congress is the power of the purse. It is a power given to us as representatives of our people. And with great power comes great responsibility. These budget deliberations are tiring, time-consuming, we all lose sleep, and the rest. But this is part of the job that we were elected to do, to ensure that the funds the government is entrusted with us is budgeted wisely and efficiently to serve Filipinos. To the President and the whole executive branch, thank you for allowing Congress to unite and still respect its role as a separate branch of government. I would also like to express sincere gratitude to the majority, especially the members and officers of the Committee on Rules, for working hand in hand with us and allowing us to constructively contribute inputs to the deliberation. To the Committee on Appropriations, headed by our active Chairman Eric Yap, salamat po sa walang kupas na pasensya niyo sa amin. Politics aside, this is what we were mandated to do. No matter if we belong in the majority or the minority, no matter the party colors, we make the people's budget worth every Filipino's tax. Together, we ensure that this government serves the very people responsible for our existence, the Filipinos. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. God bless us all.
Thank you, Representative Janet Garin, for your turno and contra. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, to avail of the period of turn and contra, I move to recognize our esteemed colleague, the Honorable Minority Leader, Representative Benny Abante. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Chair recognizes the Minority Leader, Bishop Benny Abante.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to appreciate the very lengthy but passionate and exhaustive turno and contra of the Senior Deputy Minority Leader. Our new and esteemed House Speaker Lord Alan J. Velasco, and the leadership of the House, Appropriations Chair and House Bill 7727 sponsor, Congressman Eric Yap, my colleagues in the House, friends in the majority, and partners in the minority. Mga kababayan, magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. For the past few days, the members of the House of Representatives have devoted their energies to examining the 2021 national budget, a yearly exercise that is considered during normal times our most important task. The times, however, are far from normal. The world is in the grip of an unprecedented pandemic that may not let go anytime in the foreseeable future. Its effects have been felt around the globe, with fatal consequences for over 1 million people worldwide and catastrophic consequences for populations whose lives have been forever changed by COVID-19. Our country, Mr. Speaker, with over 100 million people, is one of the nations that have had to grapple with this disease that has infected close to 350,000 Filipinos, claimed 6,497 lives, and wrought havoc on an economy that, before the pandemic, had been considered one of the rising stars of Asia. It is against this atypical backdrop, Mr. Speaker, that we are challenged to pass a record 4.5 trillion peso budget that will hopefully answer the cries of a people that need their government now more than ever, that need their government to cast lifelines so that they may survive the expectedly turbulent times ahead. This budget, Mr. Speaker, will fund those lifelines. Napakahalaga po ng budget na ito na mismo ang ating Pangulo Rodrigo Roa Duterte ay naglabas ng proklamasyon na nagtawag ng special session para maipasa ang General Appropriations Bill ngayong linggo. Mr. Speaker, I will not dwell on the importance of passing the budget on time, as numerous personalities from both the executive and legislative departments, including yourself, have repeatedly stressed the urgency of doing so. Alam na po natin lahat yan. Allow me instead, Mr. Speaker, to acknowledge the efforts of everyone in this chamber who have worked to fast-track the deliberations of a 2021 budget while making every attempt to thoroughly vet its numerous provisions. Kasama po dito ang ating bagong speaker at ang liderato ng Kamara. Kasama po din dito ang mga sponsor ng mga budget ng ahensya at ang mga opisyal mula sa iba't ibang ahensya na umarap po dito para tulungan tayo sa pagsisiyasat ng pondo ng pamahalaan. Of course, it goes without saying that the members of the House from both the majority and the minority deserve credit for the hard work and the long hours they have put in to get to us to this point. Pagdating sa budget, magkaiba man ang ating mga pananaw, lahat po tayo pagod at puyat. I said in my terno and contra last year that no budget is 100% perfect. But from my years in the House, I can say with all certainty that you can always expect everyone in this august chamber to give 101% effort to get the budget done. Sa inyong lahat, mga kasama ko, maraming salamat po. In this whole process, the minority has sought to fulfill its role as the House's fiscalizers, committed to constructive participation that seeks to find the gaps in the budget, not for the purposes of finding fault for fault's sake, but in order to identify ways in which the budget can better respond to the needs of our constituents. Mr. Speaker, while this House is divided between the majority and the minority, it has always been united in its desire to serve the people, even if we have different views on how this can be best done. This role has taken an even greater significance when one considers the almost infinite needs of our people and the very finite resources we have on hand. With our revenue collection agencies unable to hit their targets because of the adverse economic impact of the pandemic, the value of every peso cannot be overstated. Given the state of our finances, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that our financial resources are properly maximized. Walang labis, walang kulang. In this year's deliberations, the members of the minority have been guided by one overarching question: how do these allocations help our country deal with and recover from the greatest public health and economic crisis of our lifetimes? Paano ba makakatulong ang pondong ito para maibsan ang hirap na dulot ng pandemya at makakatulong upang ibangon ang ating ekonomiya? It pains me to say, Mr. Speaker, that while the government has sought to present a budget that, in theory, addresses the needs of our nation during this pandemic, there have been instances wherein the intended objectives have not been backed up by proper allocations. Take, for example, the funding for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines. We believe that there is no debate regarding the importance of this item. A vaccinated population is ultimately what will eradicate the virus from our midst. However, as pointed out by one of the House residents economists, Assistant Deputy Minority Leader Representative Stella Kimbo, the proposed 2.5 billion pesos to procure vaccines is hardly inadequate. As she points out, if it's dose of the vaccines cost 600 pesos, we will be able to inoculate only 3.9 million people. This figure, Mr. Speaker, is less than 4% of our total population, and a far cry from what the President had in mind when he announced that he wants all our countrymen vaccinated for free. My friends, my colleagues, even assuming we prioritize a distribution of vaccines for Filipinos under the poverty line, 2.5 billion pesos is woefully inadequate. Assuming a poverty rate of 20% for 2020, that means we will need to provide vaccines for an estimated 20 million poor Filipinos, which will cost 12 billion pesos. Napakalayo po ito sa nakalaang pondo. And with joblessness on the rise because of the economic slowdown, it would not be far-fetched to say that more of our countrymen will be hard up this year. Dadami po ang mahihirap at sila po ang mangangailangan ng libreng bakuna. We are also perturbed, Mr. Speaker, by the inability of the Department of Budget and Management to revise the budgets of key agencies to reflect the demands of the pandemic. Tingnan po natin ang budget ng Department of Health para sa pandemic response. Sa taong ito, nasa 82 billion pesos na ang nagastos ng DOH sa COVID response. Napakalayo po ito sa 13 billion pesos na nasa 2021 budget ng DOH para tumugon sa pandemya. Mr. Speaker, whether one is in the majority or the minority, I believe we can all agree that the theme of this year's budget is 100% appropriate. Reset, rebound, and recover. Investing for resiliency and sustainability. However, Mr. Speaker, I believe we also must agree that we have to take the word investing seriously. There may have been instances in the past that our agencies could make do with what they are given. That is, after all, the reality of governance. May mga limitasyon talaga. But we cannot hold back when it comes to the lives and the health of our people. Kailangan all-in po tayo. Tama po ang ating Pangulo na dapat lahat i-vaccinate, na kung pwede, lahat dapat libre. Kung kailangan hanapin ng pondo, hanapin natin. If we have to cut out unessential items in the budget, then so be it. Rather than raise taxes on a population that is already struggling. Let us identify idle assets we can sell or cut funding for non-performing agencies like the National Telecommunications Commission, since the President on his own has done more on his own to improve telco services than the said agency has done in recent years. It is clear to us, Mr. Speaker, that with the numerous shortfalls in the budgets of agencies vital to pandemic response and recovery, such as the DSWD and DTI, we must be ready to make amendments to the budget later on or pass measures like Bayanihan 1 and Bayanihan 2 in order to better enable government to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. These laws, Mr. Speaker, were critical components of the government's COVID response and helped millions of Filipinos survive. The stringent measures in place in order to contain the outbreak. Malaki po ang itinulong ng mga batas na ito sa ating mga kababayan, and the House deserves credit for expediting these laws so that the country could begin healing and recovering as one. In the same vein, we also call on our colleagues to take a second look at the economic stimulus packages that will augment the initiatives funded by the 2021 national budget. One of these measures is the ARISE bill, or the Accelerated Recovery and Investment Stimulus for the Economy of the Philippines. This measure was approved on third and final reading last June, and it involves 1.3 trillion pesos to be invested over the next 3 years to help ensure economic survival and business continuity. Jobs are at stake here, Mr. Speaker. And it will only be possible to secure these jobs if local businesses are given the kind of financial and necessary to ride out this pandemic until we can resume some semblance of economic normalcy. In the passage of these measures, the members of the House set aside political agendas, ideological differences, and personal interest para po sa kapakanan ng ating mga kababayan. Under your leadership, Mr. Speaker, this representation has faith that in the face of the challenges faced by our people, the members of the House will once again coalesce, find common ground, and act in unison for the good of our countrymen. Mga kaibigan, please let me share some words to steel ourselves in the months to come. In the good book, in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 to 9, the Lord says, and I quote, "We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed." End of quote. Mr. Speaker, anuman ang hamon ng panahon, may tiwala po ako sa kakayanan at kapasidad ng Kongreso na tumugon at tumulong sa ating mga kababayan. The positions and views of the different members of the House may differ, and we may disagree on various issues. But at the end of the day, all of us are lawmakers who love our country and will work for our constituents, guided by the precepts Salus Populi est supreme lex, meaning the welfare of our people is the supreme law. Mr. Speaker, before I wrap up, let me reiterate that I have full trust in the new leadership in its pursuit of a legislative agenda that is not only pro-people, but more importantly, responsive to the need to provide effective and sufficient interventions to control the COVID pandemic. And there is no better symbol of distrust than an expression of intent to join the majority so I could be more proactive in providing urgently needed legislation and congressional oversight on the instance that the majority leader and the esteemed speaker favorably acts on this prayer. May I say, ako po ngayon ay sasama sa majority, Mr. Speaker. And I trust that the minority family will judiciously choose their next leader. Mr. Speaker, Your Honors, as I come to the end of my turno and contra, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues in the minority for the support you have extended to me the past 15 months. This, my friends, is a difficult decision for this representation, as I have come to think of the minority bloc as my extended family here in the House. Marami po kaming napagdaanan. And I will always cherish the time we work together. Tulad ng lagi kong sinabi, magkaiba man ang partido natin, o ang paniniwala natin, o ang ating ideolohiya, there are more things that unite us. There are more advocacies we share, and there will always be one thing that will always bind us together, our desire to serve our people. Hindi ko naman po kayo mamimiss sapagkat makikita-kita pa rin po tayo dito. At lalaban tayong sabay-sabay para po sa ating bayan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. God bless you all, and may God bless the Republic of the Philippines.
U.S. President Abraham Lincoln once said, a politician thinks of the next election while a statesman thinks of the next generation. To my good friend, Most Honorable Representative Benny Abante, you are in every sense a true statesman. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of turno and contra on House Bill number 7727. So move, Mr. Speaker.
All those who are in favor,
Hearing no objection.
are there any objection? There being none, the motion is approved.
Mr.
Majority Leader.
Speaker, I move to close the period of sponsorship and debate on House Bill number 7727.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments on House Bill 7727. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The period of amendments is open.
Mr. Speaker, consistent with our parliamentary precedents, I move that we create a small committee to receive and resolve all individual amendments to House Bill number 7727, the fiscal year 2021 General Appropriations Bill. The small committee, which will be composed as follows. First, the Majority Leader, Martin Romualdez. Next, Chairman Eric Yap, the Honorable Jack Duavit, the Honorable Joet Garcia, the Honorable Joey Salceda, the Honorable Eileen Ermita Buhain, the Honorable B.H. Herrera, the Honorable Sharon Garin, the Honorable Doy Liachon, the Honorable X.J. Romualdo, the Honorable Edgar Sarmiento, the Honorable Banti Quaresma, for the minority and independents, the Honorable Stella Kimbo, and the Honorable Edsel Lagman. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the creation of the small committee is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that all members of the House submit their individual amendments to the small committee not later than October the 19th, Monday. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendments on House Bill 7727. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the period of amendment is now closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 7727, subject to the amendments to be approved by the small committee, if any. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
All those who are in favor of House Bill number 7727, say aye.
Aye.
All those who are against, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill number 7727 is now approved on its second reading.
Mr. Speaker, I move for a few minutes suspension. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended.
Session resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for the information and guidance of our esteemed colleagues, the President, in his letter dated October 9, 2020, has certified the necessity of the immediate enactment of House Bill number 7727, or the General Appropriations Bill for fiscal year 2021, in order to address the need to maintain continuous government operations following the end of the current fiscal year and strengthen the government's efforts to respond more effectively to the COVID-19 pandemic and in support of initiatives towards national economic recovery. Pursuant to the Constitution and the rules of the House of Representatives, I move that we vote on the approval of House Bill number 7727 on third reading and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the measure and call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of House Bill number 7727 and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill 7727. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adyong, Advincula, Agabas, Agarao, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz Chicoy, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagaching, Balindong, Baños Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Vascug, Bautista, Bautista Bandigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biazon, Billones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo. Rosas, Bulut, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabuchan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Caugdan, Cardema, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredenil,
Mr. Chair,
Cayetano,
Mr.
Alan Peter, Cayetano, Mariela Arni, Celeste,
Wait lang. The Honorable Franz Castro is hereby recognized.
Chair, I vote no, and I receive my I want to explain my vote later.
After the announcement of the results, please proceed.
Chato, Chipeco, Chungalao, Co Angelica, Co Elizaldi, Co Juanco, Coliantes, Crisologo, Cua, Quaresma, Cueva, Culiamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza, De Jesus.
Mr. Speaker, if my name was called, it's yes with explanation, Mr. Speaker.
Nation will be after the reading of the votes. Please proceed.
De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar, De Los Santos, De Loso Mantalia, Dimaporo Abdullah, Dimaporo Muhammad Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian Paul, Ebcas, Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Eriel.
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve my right to explain my vote later. Thank you.
Well, Lago, the explanation of the votes will be after reading the results. Proceed.
Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria Cristina, Fariñas Rudis Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer, Juliet Marie de Ferrer, Luis John, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia Jose Enrique, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Go Ed Christopher, Go Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Carlo Lisandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gulyas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Haloshos, Javier, Jimenez, Ko Elisa Olga, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Legarda, Lim Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Lusotan, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Mangudadatu, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho Jonas, Nograles Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Malañaon, Uaminal, Olivares, Ong Jose Jun, Ong Ronnie, Ordanes, Ortega, Juano Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto Bobby, Pacquiao Rogelio Ruel, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Remulla, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sangkopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulog, Saveliano, Siao, Silverio, Singson, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David JJ, Suntay, C. Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa Sheena, Tan Angelina Helen, Tan Samier, Tan Sharian, Tan Sherney, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Tutor, T. Alan, T. Diego Nonoy, Umali Alfonso Jr., Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia, Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando Clarex, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva Eduardo Brother Eddie, Villanueva Noel, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap
Mr. Speaker,
Tor.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that my vote is yes, and I thank you for all the members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikurat, Zarate Zubiri.
Mr. Speaker, my vote is no.
Second call for nominal voting on third reading of House Bill number 7727. Agarao, Alvarez Genaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arbison, Barzaga, Bernos, Biron, Bulut, Cardema, Chungalao, Ko Angelica, Ko Elizaldi, Dimaporo Abdullah, Gatchalian, Gonzales Sandro, Jimenez, Konghun, Lagon, Mendoza, Mercado, Nieto, Nunez Malañaon, Olivares Ong Jose, Ramirez Sato, Zagarbaria, Sinsuat, Suarez David, Tan Samir, Tan Shari, Torres Gomez, Tupas, Umali Alfonso, Uy Juliet, Velasco, Vergara, Villafuerte, Zamora Ronaldo.
With the 257 members voting in the affirmative, 6 in the negative, and 0 abstention, House Bill number 7727 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority leader. Let's proceed with the explanation of the votes.
Explanation of votes, Honorable Brosas.
Mr. Speaker, no ang boto ng kinatawang ito sa 2021 General Appropriations Bill. Natadtad ng anomalya, pork insertions at budget para sa matinding pasismo. Hindi ito pandemic budget. Nailantad sa budget deliberations ang multiple infra-pork slices na aabot sa 397 billion na triple pa sa budget ng Department of Health. Ang alokasyon na ito ay para lamang sa construction, repair, at maintenance ng mga daan, tulay at flood control projects. Walang nakalaan sa pagpapagawa ng ospital at iba pang health facilities. Hiwalay pa ito sa nakakalulang 38 billion na pondo para sa right-of-way na vulnerable sa korupsyon at arbitrary spending. Mr. Speaker, walang patumpik-tumpik na nagpaulan ng budget ang gobyerno para sa mga infrastruktura, habang ang mga pampublikong ospital ay makakatanggap pa ng mas mababang budget sa 2021. Sa 2021 proposed budget ng gobyerno, 23 DOH hospitals ang makakakuha ng 4 to 209 million budget cut sa maintenance and other operating expenses. Ito ay sa kabila ng hindi humuhupang krisis sa kalusugan dito sa ating bansa. Hindi katanggap-tanggap na sadsad ang budget para sa mga pampublikong ospital na pinaka-accessible sa mga mahihirap, lalo na sa gitna ng pandemya, habang wala namang napanagot sa korupsyon sa PhilHealth. Sa kabila ng mababang budget para sa direktang serbisyo sa mamamayan, nagpapakasasa naman ang mga militarista sa mas mataas na budget para sa National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, na kilala bilang red tagging, terrorist tagging arm ng Administrasyong Duterte. Tumataginting na 19.1 billion ang budget para sa NTF-ELCAC, habang namamatay sa gutom ang mga Pilipino dahil sa krisis na dulot ng pandemya. Sampal ito sa mga Pilipino na halos magmakaawa na para sa ayuda at serbisyo, habang ang NTF-ELCAC ay ginawang mas prioridad kahit na wala naman itong ibang ginawa kundi magpakalat ng peking balita, takutin at perasahang pasukuin ang mga organisadong mamamayan. Mr. Speaker, kapwa ko mga kinatawan, ito na ba ang Duterte legacy na sinasabi ng palasyo? Legacy na tadtad ng korupsyon at panunupil sa masang naghihikahos? Gabriela Women's Party strongly casts a no vote to an appropriations bill that funds red tagging, terror tagging, harassment, and that which systematically rolls back the gains of those who fought against state terrorism and corruption before us. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Castro Franz, you may explain your votes. You're given 3 minutes.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker. Ginoong Speaker, bumoboto po ng no ang ACT Teachers Party List sa House Bill 7727 o ang General Appropriations Bill para sa 2021 dahil sa mga sumusunod na kadahilanan. Una, dahil malalaking tapyas at barya-baryang dagdag lang ang binigay ng gobyerno sa mga mahalagang programa, serbisyo at aktibidad na inaasahan ng mamamayan, lalo na ang mga mahihirap at marginalized sector sa panahon ng rumaragasa pa rin ang pandemya. Kabilang dito ang budget sa edukasyon. Walang substantial increase sa budget ng DepEd at puno ng budget cuts tulad ng Disaster Preparedness and Response Program, slashed by 256.5 million kahit na may pandemya. Basic education facilities para sa additional classrooms, armchairs, functional clinic, washing areas, comfort rooms, at iba pang school facilities is slashed by 5.36 million. Basic education curriculum is slashed by 0.5069 million. Early language literacy and numeracy slashed by 19.597 million. School-based feeding program slashed by 500 million at zero budget sa special education program para sa mga differently abled learners. Imposible rin ang ligtas at dekalidad na balik eskwela kung walang proteksyon sa education frontliners. Tinanggal din ang 500 medical check-up fund at kulang ng higit 20 bilyong piso ang pondo para sa modules. Walang maasahang budget para sa internet at gadgets ng kada guro at estudyante. Hindi pa rin susolusyonan ang matagalang sakit ng sektor na edukasyon na inuuhaw sa sapat na pondo. At sino ang kakargo ng mga shortages at bigat ng trabaho dahil sa kakulangan ng kawani? Sino ang gagastos ng malaki mula sa sariling bulsa upang magawa ang modules at mahihatid sa kanilang mga estudyante at maitawid ang edukasyon? Sino ang mahahawa sa COVID at magkakasakit ng iba pang mga karamdaman? Walang iba, Ginoong Speaker, kundi ang mga public school teachers at education support personnel. Iiwan na naman natin ang local government units, mga magulang at komunidad upang maghagilap ng pondo at rekurso upang punan ang pagkukulang ng ating government. Hindi rin priority ng budget ang pondo ng serbisyong pangkalusugan, pangwalo lamang ang DOH at marami pang tapya sa MOE ng mga hospitals. Pangalawa, ang 2021 budget ay nakatuon sa militarismo at pasismo ng Estado. Nasa higit na 19 billion ang pondo ng NTF-LCAC. Kasama dito ang malinaw na general sport at election war chest na 16.44 billion. PDP, 1.179 billion para sa balat armas, 8 billion para sa AFP modernization program at iba pang mga defense program. There is no reset, rebound, and recover. These are mere hollow catchwords meant to mislead and deceive the people. In this time of crisis, the budget priority should be
The Honorable
channeled
Franz, please wind up.
to social services and health and education. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kulyamat, you have 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Honorable Collimat, please proceed.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, no ang boto ng representasyong ito sa panukalang pambansang budget sa 2021 dahil ito ay hindi magsisilbi sa interes ng mamamayan. Napakalaki ng pundo para sa paninikdik at panggigipit sa mamamayan. Hindi natutugunan ng panukalang budget 2021 ang pangangailangan ng mamamayan upang sapat na makaresponde sa pandemya at makaahon sa krisis pang-ekonomiya. Samantala, patuloy na lumubo ang pundo sa paninikpik, paglabag sa karapatang pantao at pamamaslang at binubusog ang mga dayuhan at lokal na politiko sa maluhong infrastruktura o at pork barrel. Malinaw na hindi nakabatay sa pangangailangan ng mamamayan ang panukalang budget para sa 2021. Hindi ito natutugunan ang pangailangan ng mamamayan. Sa halip, pinapatindi nito ang atake sa mamamayang nagbuhos nito ng pundo sa paninikpik, pananakot at pamamaslang sa mga katutubo, magsasaka, manggagawa at mamamayang naghahangad ng pagbabago. Hindi nakamit ang mapayapa at progresibong pamayanan sa panukalang budget ng taong 2021. Hindi ito nagsisilbi para sa kapakanan ng mamamayang naghihirap kung kaya't nararapat lamang itong tutulan. Taliwas sa pangako na mapayapa at progresibong pamayanan ang hatid ng budget ay kamatayan at ibayong kahirapan ng mamamayan. Kaya no ang boto. Ayoko ng pagwawaldas at pagnanakaw sa pinagpawisang buwis na pundo ng bayan. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Collimat. Honorable Daza. You have 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you. I voted yes. And first of all, I wanted to congratulate the Speaker, Lord Alan Velasco, Chairman Eric Yap, the Minority Leader Benny Abante, and all my colleagues who worked very hard this last few days in deliberating and passing the budget for the 2021. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to all of us. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to make an appeal to the Speaker, to the leadership, to the small committee, that even though we pass this budget, I sincerely believe that we need to consider some amendments that will even improve it. For example, this same Congress created a new commission, the National Commission on Senior Citizens. And the NEP submission by the DBM did not consider the budgetary requirements for this commission. There are many new state universities, Mr. Speaker, that the DBM was not able to include in the submission to the House. And I believe the small committee should consider these few amendments. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, I stand here to explain my vote. And another important one that I want my colleagues to hear, the 17th Congress passed a good law that created a new department, the Department of Housing, called Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, that started basically this year. And the budget as submitted by the DBM is also lacking. So, Mr. Speaker, and to the members of the small committee, to the chairman, Honorable Eric Yap, I hope that this small committee will consider the institutional amendments or committee amendments to make the budget that we just passed even better and more responsive, that the government and the people will even appreciate more as a better budget for 2021. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Daza. Honorable Elago. You have 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Maraming salamat, Ginoong Speaker. Ang boto ng kabataan ay no sa HB 7727 dahil hindi pa sinasalamin ng nakalaang pondo para sa kalusugan ang kagyat na pangangailangan upang epektibong makaresponde laban sa COVID-19. Hindi man lang umabot sa 3% ng buong 4.5 trillion budget. Malayo pa ito sa rekomendasyon na 5% ng kabuuang budget ang dapat nakalaan sa kalusugan. 34% ng kabuuang budget ng health ay mapupunta sa PhilHealth sa kabila ng mga issue ng korupsyon. Ito ay 15 times na higit na mas malaki kumpara sa budget para sa specialized hospitals na makakaranas pa ng kaltas pondo tulad ng 150 million ng Philippine Children's Medical Center at 12.9 million ng Lung Center of the Philippines. Nasa 1.8 billion din ang buong budget sa 24 na public hospitals ang makakaltasan. Liliit ng 77% ang Health Facilities Enhancement Program kumpara sa nakaraang taon. Lumiliit rin ng 3.6 million ang pondo para sa Epidemiology and Surveillance Program at nabawasan ng 77.3 million ang Health Emergency Program. Sa halip na bigyan ng sapat na pondo ang mental health, adolescent health, National Immunization Program at imbis taasan ang pondo para sa mga bagong equipment sa mga public hospitals, pinalaki ang discretionary funds na tulad ng assistance to indigent patients mula 4.8 billion tungo 70.3 billion sa panukalang budget. Kapos rin ang pondong nakalaan sa ayuda. Hindi ito sapat sa tumataas na bahagdan ng kagutuman at kawalan ng hanap buhay sa ating bansa. Ang malawakang kawalan ng trabaho at kabuhayan ay nagdulot ng dagdag hirap sa paggamit ng karapatan sa edukasyon, pagsasakatuparan nito sa gitna ng pandemya. Sa kabila nito, nabawasan pa ang mga pondo sa ilalim ng DepEd, CHED at ng SUCs, kung saan 112 sa ating mga SUCs ay nabawasan ng MOOE, 18 dito at 56 naman para sa capital outlay. Ang budget cut naman sa housing ay nasa 41%. Aabot rin ng 700,000 ang kontraktual sa ating pamahalaan na walang pondo nakalaan para sa kanilang regularization. Ang bagong kahulugan rin ng savings, Ginoong Speaker, sa budget para sa 2021 ay magbibigay ng malawak na kapangyarihan sa Presidente na mag-realign o gamitin ang pondo sa ilalim ng state of calamity. Ginagamit pa ang pandemya para makatakas sa pananagutan habang sinasamantala ang pondo ng bayan. Ang HB 7727 ay hindi pa tumutugon sa pangangailangan ng mamamayan upang sapat na makaresponde sa pandemya at makabangon mula rito. Samantala, lumulobo pa ang pondo na nakatago sa bayan at nawawaldas ng walang pananagutan, paglabag sa karapatang pantao at pamamaslang habang binubusog ang mga dayuhan at tiwali sa maluhong infrastruktura at port barrier. Ngayon, higit kailanman, kailangan natin ng 2021 budget na bibigyan ng prioridad ang interes ng sambayanang Pilipino. Ang boto ng kabataan ay boto para sa kalusugan, edukasyon, trabaho, kabuhayan, balikpasada at public transport. Ang boto ng kabataan ay ang paninindigan ng mga pag-asa ng bayan. Ang boto ng kabataan ay boto upang tutulan ng abuso, pagwawaldas at pagnanakaw sa pinagpawisang buwis at pondo ng ating bayan. Ang boto ng kabataan ay para sa serbisyo, hindi pasismo at diktadurya. Kaya naman ang boto ng kabataan sa HB 7727 ay no, Ginoong Speaker. Maraming salamat ho.
Thank you, Honorable Elago. Honorable Gaite. You have 3 minutes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, dear colleagues, the Speaker would like to address the body.
My esteemed colleagues, honorable members of the 18th Congress, let me at the onset express my gratitude for responding to the call of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte to hold the special session for the purpose of ensuring the timely passage of the national budget for fiscal year 2021. Mabigat po ang ating pinagdaanan bago tayo nakarating dito. Pagkahalong pagsisikap at pananampalataya, tiwala at suporta ng bawat isa ang nagdala sa atin sa hantungang ito. I commend you, my fellow representatives, that despite differences in viewpoints, we have proven to the Filipino people that we can actually work together and get things done. And that as a body, we recognize and uphold a common goal, which is the welfare of our country and the people. And that we can set aside personal differences and be bound by shared and noble goals. During this special session, we have reopened the plenary debates over the national budget to further scrutinize the agency budgets and to thresh out issues relevant to each department and concerned sector. Within the 4-day special session, we tackled the budget of major departments, such as the Departments of Education, Health, Public Works and Highways, National Defense, Transportation, Social Welfare and Development, Environment and Natural Resources, and the Interior and Local Government. We have provided every representative the opportunity to raise issues, clarify any misconceptions, and recommend how we can make the budget truly responsive to our current and pressing needs and conditions. Annually, we go through this process of deliberating and passing the national budget. But this expenditure program is no ordinary one. It is an extraordinary budget for extraordinary times. There is so much at stake here. Our health, the economy, jobs and livelihood, food security, the education of our children, and much more. And we thank President Rodrigo Roa Duterte for taking a principled, decisive leadership in calling this special session so that the budget would get the complete attention that it deserves. Mr. President, Mayor Sir, we present to you a budget for lives and livelihood. Ito ang tunay na budget ng bayan. We have to make hard choices. We work on limited resources when our needs appear to be limitless. Next year's budget of 4.5 trillion requires us to carefully strike a balance in providing the fiscal stimulus for economic recovery while containing the spread and mitigating the effects of COVID-19. This pandemic has revealed to us the gaps and weaknesses in the way we do things in the public sector. It has highlighted the urgency of implementing long-postponed reforms, such as the national ID system, necessary for targeting public services, and the IT support necessary to make government services fast and efficient through electronic and digital means. We realize that we need to appropriate funds to make our processes in delivering public services more effective and efficient. I congratulate all House members for their active involvement in the timely passage on third and final reading of the General Appropriations Bill. But I assure you and the President that we will not have a reenacted budget by January of next year. We will transmit without delay the approved bill to the Senate and give our counterparts sufficient time to likewise examine the national budget. Our task over the budget does not end with its passage. We will have to make sure that the programs are properly implemented, that public funds, as appropriated, do not go to waste. This juncture, let me thank each and every one of you who toiled long and hard for the successful passage of the budget. All the hardworking members of our very able secretariat who ensured that Congress continued to function seamlessly despite the challenges that we successfully hurdled this week. Our congressional staff who are behind us 24/7. The members and staff of the Committee on Appropriations who know all the intricacies of every budget that this House has passed, and their chairman, Eric Yap, and all our vice chairmans, our deputies and leaders in the majority and the minority who have steered the Committee on Rules and the proceedings here in the plenary, headed by our Majority Leader, Martin Romualdez, and our Minority Leader, Benny Abante, and the Captain of the Night Shift, Rimpi Puyat Bondok. Sa totoo namang puyat na puyat. And of course, our Deputy Speakers for presiding over 4 historical days and nights of this special session. Thank you to all of you. I am proud and humbled by what I have experienced and witnessed this very eventful week. I may not be an extraordinary congressman, but I am a humble recipient of your overwhelming mandate and support. I am proud of this general appropriation bill that we have passed on third reading today, which is truly reflective and responsive to the needs of our people. We have proven that playing by the rules without resorting to shortcuts and keeping our time-honored traditions and values, we can produce better and superior outputs. I am humbled and heartened by the realization that no one or any group has the monopoly of knowledge and competence. Every member of this institution has something to contribute and deserves to be heard. That we can do better by listening to one another and working together for our people deserves nothing less. Together, we can rise up again and build a better future for all Filipinos. God bless us all at maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Love ko kayo. Majority Leader.
Sa mundo ng social media, ikaw ay nakisabay. Kaya talagang ang isang tulad mo ay doon nagbabagay. Ang pagbibigay mo ng tunay na balita at ang magagandang katangian mo na nakita ko sa iyong mga salita. Hindi ka man gustuhin ng iilan, pero mahal ka naman ng karamihan. Ang isang kagaya mo ay talagang dapat purihin dahil ang mga balita at reaksyon mo ay talagang walang dahilan para ikay batikusin. Maganda kang ehemplo sa mamamayan, lalo na sa mga batang ligaw ang kaalaman. Nagsisilbi kang gabay sa mga taong naliligaw ang pananaw sa buhay. Reaction TV, isa kang tunay na makabayan. Makabayan na talagang tutulong sa abot ng iyong makakaya dahil ang isang kagaya mo ay walang hiling kundi ang makapagbigay saya. Saya na walang sino man ang makakapantay sa mga bigay mong gabay. Sana pagpalain ka pa ng puong may kapal at mawala yung mga tao sa buhay mo na nakasagabal dahil talagang bilib ako sa taglay mong katapangan at sa mga reaksyon mo na walang kinikilingan.